watching what's been taking place here this afternoon, I'm guessing that most everybody here is family. Is there anybody here that's not family? All the technicians running the equipment. Well, welcome to the family. We're glad you're here, glad you made it across the country, wherever you came from, to be here today. As you know, we're here to have memories, and every one of you sitting here today has memories. And not exactly the same memories that everybody else has, but they are still memories. If you put them all together, it'd be the tapestry of her life, Verdeen's life. And that makes it special. So as we gather here today to remember her, it's a special occasion, because you'll start putting all the memories together as things happen. I know that. I've seen that happen many times. So we're glad you're here to share in this special time, remembering Verdeen. Let's pray together. Father, you are the one who has given life. You are the one who sustains life. You are the one, through your Son, Jesus Christ, that changed death to sleep. And we know that Verdeen was one of your daughters. And she rests now, and the next thing she knows will be, time to get up, Verdeen, we're going home. So thank you that we can be here today. We invite you to be present with us, to bring to us the assurance of what you've given to us through your Son, Jesus Christ. May each member of the family that's here sense your presence and find your hope and strength in their lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for coming to honor my grandmother. And I'm Carrie. I am Janet's daughter, and I'm actually Verdeen's oldest grandchild. And I'm going to cry, so just forgive me, just whatever. But my mom is actually the one who wrote this, so. Violet Verdeen Bowker was born in Rexburg, Idaho on March 13, 1923, to Jake and Molly Heffel. She was the fourth of 6 children. Her older siblings were Frida Lopestein, Herb Heffel, and Don Heffel. Younger sisters included Lola Sellers and Anna Pearl All. They all preceded her in death, except for Anna Pearl. The Heffel family lived in many places, including Thornton, Idaho, Astoria, Oregon, Caldwell and Homedale, Idaho. In Namba, they bought a small farm which consisted of a few crops of chickens and dairy cows. Jake didn't like farming, so the farm work and garden fell to Molly and the children. Jake drove a milk truck, delivering milk. He liked it when Mom would ride along with him. She was his sidekick for sure. Life was tough with 8 mouths to feed. The kids had to do without a lot of things, clothes being one of them. Mom, like any pretty young girl, loved nice clothes, but pretty things were hard to come by. Her mom had little time to sew, so most of her clothes were hand-me-downs from her loving sister Frida. On one cold day in the little Adventist school, she stood too close to the potbelly stove and burned one sleeve of her coat. That day, she cried all the way home. There was no money to replace the coat, so she had to wear it until she grew out of it. Another time, at a special school party, she had to wear a tight black dress while all the other girls showed up wearing pretty pastel dresses with full skirts. She didn't let her feelings show, and she still had a good time. That was and is a part of her personality, to adjust to the tough times and see the possibility of fun no matter what. Her brother Don and sister Lola walked to the Adventist Gulch School. Over the hill and through the wood to school they would go. Mom and Lola rode the horse while Don hung onto the tail to help in getting up the steep hill. They oftentimes would not reach school until mid-morning. On very cold, stormy days, they would stay with their sister Frida, who lived near the school. Frida was able to purchase flour, eggs, and cream, and also receive gifts of food from friends and family. And with those ingredients, they learned how to make cream puffs. They pretty much lived on cream puffs when they stayed at Frida's. Living on cream puffs doesn't sound too tough, but then when that is what's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, it became a pretty tedious diet. That is pretty much all they knew how to make with the ingredients of flour, eggs, and cream. Verdeen's formal education ended with her 9th grade year at Gem State Academy. Her brother Don worked in the bakery full-time and paid her tuition. Her very first friend was her Aunt Helen, who was 18 months older. They were two peas in a pod. What one wouldn't think of, the other one did. They always had a great time together. They loved to surprise their moms, and on one particular day, they decided they would gather up all the eggs on the farm. They found an old milk bucket, gathered up all the eggs, and into town they went. They were able to sell all the eggs, and each girl earned 10 cents for their trouble. As they tell the story now, they can only remember buying ingredients to make their mom a coconut cake, which for the time was still fairly exotic. Several years later, with nothing to do on Saturday nights, they would walk the streets of Nampa and Homedale, flirting with the boys. That seemed to be the thing to do back then for entertainment because they were not the only ones doing it. This is how our mom, Verdeen, met Raymond T. Turek, our dad. He was 20 and she was 18. They dated and fell in love and were married on June 20, 1942 in Kitsap County, Washington. Dad was in the Army as part of the 183rd Field Artillery Division and was sent to Muskogee, Oklahoma to do his training for World War II. Mom rode along with Dad and his brother Johnny on the long journey to Oklahoma. The day before Dad left for Germany, she gave birth to a baby girl, Janet Verdeen, on November 12, 1943. Now she was left in Muskogee with a newborn baby. She stayed alone in the tiny apartment until her dad could come and drive her back to Nampa. What a trip that was, with the crying baby and her father saying, "Feed her, feed her." Needless to say, she was thoroughly exhausted by the time they reached the farm. She lived with Grandma and Grandpa until Ray was discharged 18 months later. On October 15, 1946, in Nampa, Idaho, another darling baby girl, Judith Sherrill, was added to the little family. On June 9, 1949, a little baby boy, Douglas Jake, was born. Family life with Ray was always an adventure, with lots of moves to exotic places like Hermiston, Oregon. Ray was not formally educated, but he could do anything with his hands. He spent most of his working years in construction and working on many different dams. When one dam was finished, the family would move on to the next spot. We never knew when he would come home and say, "We're moving." Home was a small mobile home, so Mom would secure the dishes and cupboards with pillows, and away we would go. There were very few years, if any, that we kids finished 1 year of school in the same place. Mom was always very good about following Ray where Ray would lead. The family settled in Kent, Washington, where Mom decided that she needed a paying job. Her first job was plucking chickens. Not the most desirable job, but it was a job. When the World Fair opened in Seattle, she found a fun job at Smitty's Pancake House. From serving pancakes to wiring heaters in Bonnie Lake, Washington, those were her jobs. In 1965, Mom and Dad divorced. In 1966, Mom married Norman Leroy Bowker, and the man she had the most in common with. They did everything together for the next 41 years. In 1984, Mom and Norman decided to retire, and they moved from Bonnie Lake, Washington to Boise, Idaho. Later in 1990, they moved to Meridian, where they enjoyed very much until the end of their lives. They enjoyed their retirement with family, fishing, boating, traveling, camping, motorcycling, and of all things, they also enjoyed getting firewood. They terrifically enjoyed all things. They also I already read that, sorry. They terrifically enjoyed the addition of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Verdeen loved her family, visiting and spoiling them with their favorite foods: cheese buttons, noodle soup, glace, dumplings with sauerkraut, to name a few. She loved weddings and helped by cooking food. One day she helped with making 300 swan cream puffs. She loved babies, birthday parties, and donuts with great-grandchildren. Her hobbies were making porcelain dolls and their attire, collecting teapots and numerous decorative plates with children and baby animals on them. She also became involved with ceramics and even had her own kiln. For a while, it was ceramics everywhere, with gifting of ceramics for every household. She was so good that she won a first-place ribbon at the Western Washington State Fair. Mom also enjoyed cooking and was willing to help us cook at camps like Glacier View Summer Camp and Auburn Academy Camp Meeting. If we needed her, she was just a phone call away. After Norman passed away on April 17, 2007, she continued to live in their Meridian home for many years. Judy also lived with her. She loved her home, her little dog Missy, her sisters, and her family. Life was good for many years, but at 97 years old, her memory was fading and she could no longer live by herself. So a family decision was thoughtfully made to move her to Beaumont, California, to live near Janet and her family. We were so excited that now we would enjoy her and make her part of our immediate family here in California. She had a beautiful apartment filled with all of her favorite things, and even so, she was lonely and missed her home in Idaho. After living a while in Beaumont, she became very ill and was then hospitalized and moved to a rehab facility. After rehab, she was then settled into a loving home care facility. She never recovered, becoming disoriented and very weak. On November 2, 2020, she fell asleep in Jesus, listening to the song, "Coming Home." No more clouds in the sky, no more tears to dim the eye. All in peace forever, more on the happy golden shore. What a day that will be when Jesus comes and we see our mom and grandma again. Until then, you will always be in our hearts. Violet Verdeen Bowker.
to thank everybody for being here. I really love these things. They're so handy. I do want to thank you for being here today. Family, it's mostly family. I'm not going to preach a message. I'm going to honor my mom, and we'll throw a few scriptures in besides. I wrote her a poem a few years back on Mother's Day, and I sent it to her. It went something like this. Hold on, folks, 'cause here I come. It's cold out here to me. Mom will wrap me nice and warm. Just you wait and see. Everything is strange out here, a fearful world to be. But Mom will hold me tight and snug. Just you wait and see. I learned to crawl and jabber too. On wobbly legs I fall and scrape my knee. But Mom will kiss away the pain. Just you wait and see. The years fly by. I leave the nest. I miss the hugs at time upon her knee. But I'll come home from time to time. Just you wait and see. I'm going to entitle this, if there's anything to entitle it, a tribute to Mom. And Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, and most of you will know where I'm going. To everything, there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. I'm going to start out, but I love my mom. Very simple. In this world, a lot of people don't have natural affection. But I was taught to love. And I call her Mom. Never mother, always Mom or Mommy. And I didn't call her Mommy after I was 21. But I would have, except people would make fun of me. And we need to get something out of the way right now, right from the start of this little, whatever you want to call it. My mom was not perfect. She made her mistakes in her walk of life. And I also want to tell you today, there's not one of you and not one of me that has not made mistakes. There is not one of us that has not failed God or have not sinned against God. Not one righteous. No, not one. The past to me is the past. And Jesus Christ covers our past with his blood. Without their shedding of blood, there'd be no remission of sins, no remission of the past. But God knows what he's doing when he covers sin. It's not to be rehashed and remembered. And so I remember my mom as a warrior, as not a failure, as a winner. And 97 years is a long time to live, folks. My goodness. She went from horse and carriage, really, to Tesla electric cars that drive themselves. She went from hand washing with a washboard to a beautiful front loader washing machine and dryer. She went from the old Kirby vacuum that we used to stand on and my sisters used to get me in trouble over. They made a big thing out of letting me stand on that the two deals that came out in the front and hold on to the handle. They turn on the switch, and the belt would burn up. And when they'd see the headlights of Mom and Dad coming through the trailer park, they'd shut the thing off, and I'd still be standing on it. Mom would walk in, and there we go. They were innocent. I was always guilty. And I was pretty perfect. We went from hot days to water coolers on the roof, to air conditioning. She saw it all. The way people dressed, the way people acted, the hairdos. I mean, she saw it all in 100 years, a century, less 3 years. But Mom was a survivor, and she constantly strove for a better life. She bought very little for herself, but made sure us kids were well taken care of. She loved her kids. She wanted us to succeed. And, one of them did. Why y'all laughing? But she wanted us to succeed. And she wanted us to be musical and make sure we had instruments. Judy sang and played the clarinet. I tried to play the trumpet and tried to sing. Janet played the radio. Janet wasn't into singing, and she wasn't into musical instruments. But she was a lot of fun to tease. Man. And for a portion of our lives, we were all crammed into a tiny trailer house. One was 16 feet long, 5 of us. A family that sweats together, sticks together. It was a very, very tight-knit family. You always knew what the other one was doing. And elbow room. And we only had just a little bit of room to store our clothes. I remember a little drawer. And in that drawer, I have my pajamas, my jeans, my shirt, and my socks, and one pair of shoes. And we didn't have a lot of toys, but we had fun. And 5 of us in a 160 square foot of room. Everywhere we lived, she made it comfortable with the smells of dinner. Jack, can you remember that? Chocolate cake. You get it on your forehead, your tongue will beat your brains out. I mean, it was unbelievable chocolate cake. Chocolate pies. Cinnamon rolls. You'd come home from school and there they'd be, that smell. Mom could cook, and Mom wanted us to be fat. And so Mom took us to church every Saturday, and we followed the teachings. She followed the teachings of the Adventist church. There's a lot of things we just didn't do. And we didn't eat pork. We didn't get to go to the movies. But I really didn't miss a thing. No clams. No catfish. No lobster. No working on Saturdays. And Mom raised us that way without any help from Dad. And I still remember the things that she put into us in those times. And if it could, it influenced me. There's things I would never do today. I would never blaspheme God. I would never talk evil against the church, because those are things that were dear to us. And so he never went to church. But I picked up a doctrine of shoe hiding. I was taught. My cousins told me how to get out of going to church on Saturday morning. And I hid my shoes. And all the hustle and the bustle, the girls getting their hair ready. And Janet, she didn't have a neck, she had no joint in her neck whatsoever when she fixed her hair. And she was Miss Perfection. And Judy, the same thing. They were all, so I'd have to hide them in a different place every time. Mom knew where they were. Only one time did I get away with it, and she couldn't find them. But she could read my mind. She knew where they were, and she'd come, "Oh, we found your shoes." And our home never heard dirty talk, swearing or screaming. It didn't happen in our house. And Mom was a saver. She did without. And she just didn't spend, she saved. Through that wartime that she lived through, and the depression, the days following the depression, it was that generation that just didn't throw their money away. She saved. And when she did buy something, she always bought quality and things that lasted for years. Mom, you were an example of how to survive. A great survivor. I got to thinking last night, if you were put on an island, and deserted island with your children, and there was no getting off that island, if that should happen to you, in 10 years, we'd come back to visit you, what would we find? We find bones thrown out on the island? Or would we find a home? Will we find a place to cook? Will we find a place to sleep? Will we find a family? Or will we find a bag of, or a pile of bones? Mom, if that happened to us, we'd have still been a family. We'd been out there surviving. And that's what this generation needs to know, is you got to survive. You only have one life. One life. So soon it will pass. Only what's done for Christ is going to last. And life is but a vapor. It appeareth for a little time, and then it vanisheth away. It's gone. It's hard to believe that I can't call my mom. It's hard to believe that she's gone. But she put enough in us to be survivors. And we will make it with the help of God. She put enough God in me that later on, after I had my fling in the world, that I came back to God. And I know who He is. I know His name is Jesus. I came back to serve Him. And I came back. The Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, you won't forget it. You'll always remember where he heard the name of Jesus. The survivor, Mom, yes, you were. A great mom, yes, you were. A family that was knit together, yes. And like I said, Mom, we had our mistakes. You had your mistakes, but I want to tell you something. You did the best you could with what you had. Our family loves her. Our family loves her, big time. The grandkids love her. Our kids think that she's the best thing since peanut butter. And she's just a great, great, great grandma. They never called her Grandma Grape. They just called her Grandma. I think Grandma Grape came from great-grandma. Isn't that right? And so Grape became great. I'm going to close and give me a key, Melanie. I think I want to yodel. It matters so little how much you may hold, the places you've been, or the people you know. It all comes to nothing when placed at his feet. It's nothing to Jesus, just memories to keep. Only one life, so soon it will pass. Only what's done for Christ will last. Only one chance to do His will. So give to Jesus all your days. It's the only life that pays. When you recall you have but one life, you can take all the treasure from far away lands. Take all the riches you can hold in your hands. Take all the pleasure your riches can buy. But what will you have when it's your time to die? Only one life, so soon it will pass. Only what's done for Christ will last. Only one chance to do His will. So give to Jesus all your days. It's the only life that pays. When you recall you have but one life. Bye, Mom. Love you much. I love the family. Let's make it all the way home. All the way home. Thank you.
troubled world is not my final home, but until then, my heart will go on singing. Until then, with joy I'll carry on until the day my eyes behold that city. Until the day God calls me home. The things of earth will dim and lose their value if we recall they're just borrowed for just a little while, and things of earth that cause this heart to tremble, remembered there, will only bring a smile. But until then, my heart will go on singing. Yes, until then, with joy I'll carry on until the day my eyes behold that city. Until the day God calls me home. Misery and strife.
The soul of man is like a waiting falcon when it's released, is destined for the sky.
Until then, my heart will go on singing. Until then, with joy I'll carry on until the day my eyes behold that city. Until the day God calls me home.
Flanders Field. In Flanders Field the poppies grow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the lark, still bravely singing, flies scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up your quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If we break faith with those who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies blow in Flanders Field.
When you look at all those pictures, it becomes very evident to all of us and all of our lives that what Verdeen was about was love. You could see it in her face in all those pictures. And when you really wanted to see Verdeen light up, put a kid in her lap. My name is Dwight, and I became a part of an appendage in the family tree in 1966 when I first met Verdeen. And when you hear all the ugly stepmother stories, you kind of wonder how it's all going to go when you meet your new stepmother. But I've got to tell you, since 1966, I've had a wonderful, wonderful relationship with Verdeen. Never, ever a harsh word. Only joy. I'd like to invite each one of you to start thinking about your intersection in her life, what you knew about her and what you found fun about her, and different experiences that you had with her. If any kids in here don't know, obviously Verdeen was not her first given name. And when I got to know Verdeen pretty well, I had to do some legal papers with her, and I didn't know that her first name wasn't Verdeen, and I find out it was Violet. And so I asked her, well, what's with the Violet Verdeen? Verdeen. And she said, well, I was in the 4th grade, and we were just starting to school, and I decided that I didn't like the name Violet. I liked the name Verdeen. And ever since, I've been Verdeen. It kind of lets you see into her character of how she felt and took charge of her different assets of her life. When I was listening to her story, and I was thinking of her giving childbirth in Oklahoma. And by the way, Janet, I never knew you were an Okie from Muskogee. Not too typical, eh? But anyway, so I'm going to open the mic, and every once in a while I'll tell you something that I knew about Verdeen. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say?
Thank you, Dwight. I've been thinking about this ever since she passed away, and I knew we were going to have a memorial service for her. But the first time I met her was in 1966 when Doug and I was 16, he was 17. We decided we were going to get married, and we could not get married in Washington. We were too young, so we decided, I think he talked to his mom, and she said, well, you know, if you get a letter from your parents and it's notarized, you can go to Idaho and get married. So the first time I met her was when we picked them up Norman and Verdeen in Yakima, and they took us to Coeur d'Alene to get married. And they knew just the place to go, the hitching post. And we got hitched at the hitching post. So then this year, I'm on Ancestry.com. I'm trying to find my father's family because I knew nothing about them at all. And so, of course, I put in, you know, like Doug Turk is my husband, and so some of his stuff from his family history and stuff, it comes to me and it pops up. And one of them was, okay, is this person part of your family tree? And it was Norman and Verdeen Bowker, and it told me that they got married in 1966, the same year we got married, at the hitching post in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, by the same justice of the peace that we got married by. And coincidentally, my mother, who married this guy, which is why I got married so young, got married 2 weeks before I did at the hitching post in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho in 1966. So to me, I thought, what a memory. That is something that will be with me until I go to the grave. But when I met Verdeen and Norman, both of them became like my mom and dad. My mother was mentally ill. She was not really a mom, and I was raised with her alone from the time I was 11, and except me and my sister, but I mean as far as a parent. And so when I was 16 and I met her, she was so kind and so sweet and so wonderful to me all through all these years that we've been married. And to me, you know, losing her, and especially in the last days, I think we kind of lost her before she finally died. And I was actually praying, Lord, she's so miserable and so unhappy and so not there, that I just asked the Lord, please take her quickly and easily. And I thank God that that happened exactly like that. She was 97. She was a wonderful, wonderful mother-in-law and mother to me. I was pretty wild when I got married. I had my bleached blonde hair and my makeup and all the stuff because I was going through my rebellious stage, of course. And so later on, when I finally, you know, became an adult and I got settled down and straightened out, and God helped me, you know, and I gave my heart and life back to God when I was 20 years old, and along with Doug with me. And so later on, we went to this spaghetti dinner that was a fundraiser for a church. And there was a gal there that had the bleached blonde hair and the black eyeliner and everything like I did, you know, when I was a teenager. And I was saying, wow, she looks so, you know, miserable, because you could tell on her face she wasn't happy. And so I said, you know, but you know what? I looked like that when you first met me. And she says, oh, yes, Kay. She pats my hand. She goes, but you never had that harsh look. You always had a sweet, tender spirit. And, of course, I never saw myself that way. And I was thankful that she did. And she took me in and let me become like a daughter to her. And so in memory of Violet Verdeen Bowker, my family loved her so much. Every one of them. Back row back there. That's my family there. Over here in this section. And, of course, Doug. And my son, who's sitting right here next to me. I see you all back there. He's right here. Anyway, we all loved her very much, and I was thankful to have her a part of my life.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? In the pictures there were a couple of things that reminded me of Dad and Verdeen. When they first moved back here to Boise, Idaho, they bought a place out on South 5 Mile, and it was an acreage. And if you knew my dad, having an acreage was good for Dad, not so good for Verdeen, because there's a lot of work to be done. Well, they raised a very large garden, and Dad was just sure that some kind of animals, two-legged or four-legged, were getting his produce. And so he decided that he would put a fence across the whole south side of this acreage. And my dad was an able carpenter, and so he had to figure out how he was, because he was an exacting guy, how he was going to make this fence level all across the back. Well, you know, there are devices for that, but you'd have to go down and rent and spend some money to get it. And that wasn't Verdeen and Dad. So he figured it out, and he got some semblance of a tripod, and he went in and got his hunting rifle, and he put it on top of that tripod. And if you guys have ever done something like this, what you can do is you can shoot a straight line. You take it, and Verdeen's on the other end, and you've seen people out in the streets doing this, and she's got this post. And he's walking her through it, and they're marking off where the post should be cut along this whole fence. And a neighbor drives by. Puts it in reverse. Norm, don't do it. She's a good woman. Now, who but Verdeen would have ever trusted Dad to have a rifle on top of a tripod aimed at her? You know, they had a very, very special relationship. Anybody else have something that they might want to say? Becky?
I'll just say that Verdeen is a woman of many talents. We couldn't wait till she brought us some more cheese buttons. That was a highlight. And she used to make chicken and noodles with the dumplings that we called sinkers that my dad loved so much. But not only was she an awesome cook, she was a very hard worker. She was always out working right beside Norman doing everything. But one thing I remember about her especially is when we'd go camping and we'd get firewood. She'd be out there slinging the axe and carrying the logs and piling them in the truck just like a man. And I spent a lot of time on the phone with her talking, and I miss her phone calls.
Is there anyone else?
Like you all haven't heard from me enough today, but I'm wondering if the rest of the grandkids, I know when we would go to visit, it was something that it's like, oh good, we get to have meat and General Foods International coffee. That was the highlight of going to see Grandma, was those two things I knew I was going to get to have. And so I don't know if anybody had been to her house, and there was always General Foods International coffee. I'm not even sure. I think Aunt Judy found some for her later on, but you can't really buy that stuff anymore. But that's the couple things that I remember when we would go to visit her. Always was excited. That and her step-down bathtub. I don't know, for some reason that was exciting to me too.
Thank you.
I was going to say the General Foods International coffee, too. That was always, our parents never let us have it, but she would, so that was always fun. But Grandma was into poems, and many of you, I don't know if I can stand up, I'm not brave enough. Grandma was into poems, and she memorized one poem, and after I read it, I remembered her memorizing this and telling it to us, so I'm just going to recite it to you guys. The little toy dog is covered with dust, but sturdy and staunch he stands. And the little toy soldier is red with rust, and his musket molds in his hands. Time was when little toy dog was new, and the soldier was passing fair. And that was the time when our little boy blue kissed them and put them there. Now don't you go till I come, he said, and don't you make any noise. So toddling off to his trundle bed, he dreamt of the pretty toys. And as he was dreaming, an angel song awakened our little boy blue. Oh, the years are many, the years are long, but the little toy friends are true. A faithful to little boy blue they stand, each in the same old place, awaiting the touch of a little hand, the smile of a little face, and they wonder and waiting the long years through. In the dust of that little chair, what has become of our little boy blue, since he kissed them and put them there?
Chris.
Chris, Doug's son. A couple things come to mind about Grandma. The first thing was she used to always give us $1 for birthdays. For every year that we were at that age. And I remember right around 10 it stopped. She thought it was getting too expensive, I guess. Me and my sister went to go visit. We got on a Greyhound bus. Mom and Dad were going somewhere, and so Grandma and Grandpa were going to take care of us in the house that they were building the big garden in. And so me and my sister got on the Greyhound bus and rode out to Boise, Idaho, which was an adventure in itself because we'd never been on a bus. And we get there thinking, oh man, it's going to be a week of just doing nothing and having fun while they were building the big garden. So me specifically, and I think Melanie did as well, we moved rocks the entire time we were there. And I got so angry about that, like, we're here to have fun. Grandma's like, when you're done, you'll have fun. And we did. We got to ride around on little bikes. And one other thing, I called her Granny one time. Don't do that.
We would always go out to donuts with her. I really like that.
Thank you, Andrew. You know, while other people are thinking, I got to give Verdeen one of the best gifts ever, even though I wasn't as tight as the rest of you, okay? Did you see her on that motorcycle? Did you see that grin? I gave that to her. And I'll tell you, it's kind of funny when your son or stepson or whatever, I taught my dad how to motorcycle, how to ride. He didn't teach me. And the first bike he had, by the way, my dad wasn't originally a very talented rider, okay? He had a balance problem. The first bike he had was a Suzuki 185. It was a little two-stroke. And the handlebars were well worn on the outside. Everything had scratches on it. But it thrilled him. And so the next thing he moved up to was a Kawasaki 750 twin four-stroke, which was a pretty hefty step up. And he was feeling pretty good about it. And so he said something about, you know, do you think you can ride that good? And So if you know me, I've ridden motorcycles for a long time. And so I came out of his driveway there at Bonnie Lake and then hung a right, set the thing up, and just wheeled off into the sunset. Came back and said, when you can do that, Dad, you let me know. Well, Dad and Verdeen began riding on that bike. The next bike was a 4-cylinder Honda 750. And that's when life started getting good for them. You got to remember that my dad drove almost every day of his life for his work. And he would go all over the state. And he would eat out, lunch and breakfast and everything at restaurants. And so when Verdeen got home from working at the chicken plant or the wiring plant, she wanted to do something. And Dad is really dragging tail and saying, oh, I'm so tired and I've already ate at a restaurant today. Well, it was getting old for Verdeen. And so one time she said when they had the Honda, well, let's go for a ride and get dinner. Boom. They were on it. And from then on out, she had the keys to the city. Because if she wanted to get out and go and have some fun, she would just mention that. Then, of course, that last bike, if you're into bikes, you would recognize it. That was the Cadillac of bikes. They were so proud of that bike. That was a Honda Goldwing Interstate. And they just loved to ride. Dad rode until he was 73 years old. And I think he was ready to put away his spurs long before Verdeen was willing to stop. Just a sidelight. Anybody else? Friday, when I got up Friday and was looking outside, and Friday we interned Dad, and Verdeen, and Missy. And I was looking out through the screen door, and you know, it was really dark, and there was some rain coming down, and I was a little bit sad. I was thinking, Lord, couldn't we have just a nice day to do this? You know, this tugs on my heart that we've got to go do this. And just then there was a lightning bolt, and the thunder just rolled across. And it hit me that the Lord was telling me, I haven't forgotten Verdeen and how important today is to you. But I want you to know that she's been faithful. And more than that, I am faithful. Don't worry, Dwight. We as Adventists sometimes forget that the verse that says, and the dead in Christ will rise first. And we claim a certain theology. But I wanted you to know that what he was saying is I got her. She's with me. She's dead and she's in me. And you know, Verdeen, as she got older, and I would have conversations about, you know, religion, Christianity, because she was raised at different times. And she found it comforting to really think that even though there were some mistakes and there were some heartaches that needed to be laid aside like a ragged old coat at the door, she was faithful to the Lord, and the Lord has been faithful to her. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to say?
She wouldn't do it. She's being very disobedient to her older brother. But we used to go on vacation once in a great while. We didn't have very many of them, did we? But we had a 1956 Ford, black and yellow. And we were to go to South Dakota. I believe we lived in Washington, didn't we not? Yeah. And so we had the option. Kids, if you want to go to Mount Rushmore, you want to go here, you want to go there, we can't afford the motels. And so what do you want to do? Well, we'll sleep outside. So the first night, we're out in the middle of no man's land. And I believe it was, who was in the trunk? Me and her. They put us in the trunk with the lid open. And we're all cozy, and all of a sudden, Mom said, "Ray, did you lock the doors?" And we're outside with the trunk lid open. Those kind of things I laugh about today, but it was so awesome. Only my mother.
Thank you very much. Verdeen used to just love it when I would sing it. But I think she would even love it more if we all stood up And whether you sing it in your head or it comes out your mouth, I invite you to join me. You stand, please. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the glory, and the kingdom, and the power forever. Thank you.
The promise to come again and redeem you, and to raise those we have lost in death to new life again. As you walk with him, as he walks with you.